Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
This is Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made. My name is Gregory. I'm here with my long-suffering co-host, Justin Curry, known the world over as Chasing Artwork. We are working writers and illustrators, but we've worn many hats on this podcast. Also podcaster, I suppose. Many chapeaux, yes. Today we're going to talk about jargon, which we have just learned is a word that originates in the colloquial hatred of the French. So no offense is intended. If you are a 17th century participant of the 100 Years' War, we're sorry.
You traveled here from the future? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, however you got here. We've figured out that the word origin of jargon, which we all know means like words other people on the outside don't understand, originates now from the English-French tensions that have lasted these many years.
This reminds me of the movie Timeline or book Timeline.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Isn't that what that's about?
Yeah. I actually like that book. Let's talk about Timeline in a minute.
No, go ahead with what you're saying.
We're going to establish the promise of the premise here, which is jargon.
Jargon.
In the creation of any systematized output, there is the notion that acronyms, slang. Yeah, I'm trying not to hit the table. See, I'm making points, but I'm not thumping the table.
But you're calling to attention to it with your words.
Yeah. With my words rather than... I am now because, dear listener, before we talk about jargon, I have to let you in on a little inside track information here on the podcast. When I make emphatic points, I often hit the table, and you can hear it. And Dan has given me the dad talk about not doing that. So this recently, as I was punctuating my conversation, I was bringing my hand close to the table, but remembering not to slam it.
You're going to bring in oven mitts, so you have to wear oven mitts during the podcast.
And then Justin, rather than simply being proud of me for making an important change, pointed it out and laughed at me.
It seemed like you were building up to a
to a big slam.
Yeah. You're getting closer and closer. And it was like a cup at the edge of the table.
Right. So I may yet. So, since we're talking about the way that in-groups talk, I wanted, dear listener, to let you in on the other ways that people communicate, which they're hurtful body language here on the podcast, directed at me, your suffering host today. However, I want to make a point. When you're trying to accomplish stuff in a hurry, on a deadline, with a specialized set of skills, it sometimes seems like a good idea to have slang terms or acronyms that everyone in the know knows so that you can speak more quickly and directly about what you're talking about.
It's kind of like you have a secret handshake. If they know the secret handshake, they've been through some of the same hurdles you've been through.
Some of those secret handshakes that come to mind in the art for production line are things like RGB, CMYK, DPI,
bleed, crop marks,
trim size, crop marks.
So these are all the words I use when I'm talking to a printer for the first time, because it lets them know that I know how to set up my files. And if they don't know what they're if they don't know, then it's a big red flag that they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
And this will happen sometimes if you're printing at an Office Depot or at a Staples. Sometimes they don't have the most reliable people working those machines. It's just kind of like a press and go, and if anything goes awry, they don't know what to do.
I can sense the probing conversation sometimes too, where they will ask, well, how many pages is it? And as soon as you give them a number divisible by 4, they immediately relax because they know that you've laid it out in a way that their print machine will also.
Divisible by 4.
It has to be, in order to be printed, it has to be 4 up. It has to be divisible by 4 in order for the fold and pagination machine of their printers. It's changed recently.
Oh.
There are, as our book rep would be quick to point out, there are digital printers now that can be a little bit more accommodating depending on how the binding is done. But if it's going to be
Oh, you're talking
folded,
about book.
Yeah, I think he's
That's
talking
right.
about prints.
Yeah.
I was talking about prints. You're talking about a book.
books,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
printers in general.
Yes.
This is like what I'm saying is that internal language, right? Where you can sense that they're probing, or do you have the secret
Right.
handshake? This
Yeah.
is what I was getting
Yeah.
at. And in fact, there used to be a meetup of graphic designers and game developers here in Winnipeg called the Secret Handshake,
Yes.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
secret handshake, not the secret handshake.
Not the.
No.
Because there are many.
Yes.
They wouldn't want
But I mean, it was still going before the pandemic, and I don't know if it just kind of got sidelined by that, but it might be.
Maybe
still
we're
going.
on the out. Maybe we're on the out
Maybe
group.
we
That's
should
why we
figure
don't
that
know
out,
about
yeah.
the secret handshake. But this is all to say that if you are switching industries, for example, one year I was working on a theater project and a book project and a graphic design element and a graphic novel and a television script production, and I kept having to switch the channel in my head. There are words that are the same thing in every one of those industries that mean a different thing.
Film, theater.
Right, film. So if you go like film, theater, and graphic novels, for
Yeah.
example, you're doing comics work, there are internal languages for how a story is structured, how theater establishes a scene, how film establishes a scene, how graphic novels establish a scene. All very different, actually, but they all call it a scene, for example. And so if you are relying on your knowledge of how you did one thing, you're well afield of what's actually being asked of you.
Like composition versus blocking, stuff like that.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And this is
Same
exactly
thing.
right? So what I kept finding myself doing is figuring out which of those commonalities, oh, that's like this in this, and that's like this in that. So this is a perfect example. Blocking in theater, right? Can the audience see the action properly? And do you have to cheat it, even though people wouldn't normally stand that way at that angle?
Right.
The audience needs to see it, so you...
Like a dinner table where everybody's sitting on one side of the table
That's right.
facing the audience, right? Never happens.
Right. You appropriate reality,
Yeah.
right, in service of your story. In comics is the same way. You may do your layouts in such a way that leaves out background elements for the clarity and speed in which you are delivering the action.
Yeah.
And then reestablish them 4 or 5 panels later where, oh, there's the background. Oh, we are in the kitchen after all. Just remember we're in the kitchen, but for these next 5 panels, we're just
It's
doing
just
close-ups
like
with no
purple
background.
behind the character.
Exactly.
Or, you know, it's just a solid color with no actual background.
Right? But if you take those scenes out of context, right, and hand them to someone else to carry out a task, and this internal jargon language is really important because different people in different departments have different tasks. So your letterer, right, if you intentionally want to leave the background in a graphic novel with that one color, you have to leave a note for them to say, don't cover it up. This is an important mood I'm establishing. Make sure that the letters align this way, even though what is normal in that industry is to fill the negative space in a clear and readable way. If there's a background element in there that is readable, like it's clearly a kitchen, for example, you wouldn't cover that up. You don't cover the art,
Yeah.
right? But if you say, as a letterer, don't cover up the art, to a colorist who has carefully selected that color palette, right, you're now speaking in 2 separate sets of jargon. Because the colorist is an artist and they have added their art to it. And so if you say, oh, well, that doesn't matter, right, you're speaking between departments down to the department rather than up to the need. And so there's all these different slang terms developed, and no more is this more apparent to me than in film. Television, on set, every department is their own little world with their own little words for things that sometimes mean the same thing between departments, but they're different words for the same thing. And that jargon, I think, can be a barrier to people who are coming into the creative spaces and they feel like, oh, I'm out. I'm way out. I don't know what anyone is saying. And I'm here to tell you, dear listener, as Justin pointed out earlier before we started recording, you just got to stop the whole conversation and get them to clarify. There's nothing wrong with not knowing the slang. It's way worse to pretend you know.
Hey, you know? Yeah. How about the pool, Kate? Pool?
Yeah, there's an Olympic-sized swimming pool up on the roof. Take the stairs over there.
Yeah. Sure.
We think the same way in our industry, actually, in communications, when we talk about like new students or bringing people into the industry, we don't want to use a lot of terms that they don't understand, like rant or live hit or voicer. There's a
What's
lot.
a live? Ooh, I want to know.
Yeah.
What's a
You
live?
guys
hit?
want to hear some live hit? Is when it's like in the news when you sit in front of a camera and talk live to the camera. Live hit.
Live hit.
Right.
Cool.
It's also known as a rant in CBC terms, where you just rant at the camera. It's
Interesting.
generally done on like a live, on CBC News, where I keep calling it CBC News World, even though it hasn't been called that for like a decade. But they sit there and they talk about the thing. But then there's something called a voicer or a rapper. There's all these terms in radio.
Let me ask you a question. Okay,
What?
so you said a live hit and a rant. Not all live hits are rants, but all
Correct.
rants are live hits.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm understanding that.
Yeah, because a rant isn't always live, right?
Right.
A rant is just generally, and honestly, all of these terms are words for a report. It is a report by a journalist on camera or on a voice recording or live on the air, on the radio, and that's all it is. But there's all these different terms that people made up. They made it up as they went, right? And so, but these terms have stuck now. And so when people apply to the program or when they're first starting out, we don't throw a lot of jargon at them because it really makes them feel overwhelmed, and we just try to explain it in simple terms that they can understand.
And I think what it does, what the jargon does, is it is like an adjective. It's describing the tone in which, like a rant is a report, and a live hit is a report, but rant tells you what kind of report it is in a quicker way. Like,
Yes.
you're going to give a report, but I really want you to give
It's like
your
a format.
complete opinion and a format,
Yep.
right? And so the truncation is useful if you have experience, but I think that there can be. I'm speaking about this because I was on a set visit yesterday where the opposite was true. So I'm going to give a good example after, but I've been previously in the bad example where a person who arrives into a place where everyone knows the jargon except that one person, there can be an attitude of, well, that person has to catch up. But you're only as fast as your slowest person. And so if you don't pick them up, that's on you, right?
Yep.
And so leaving them on the out group without filling them in is actually bad management, bad leadership, it's bad, period.
That
Yeah.
balance is tough, though. I think, I teach boxing from time to time, right? And you're always trying to strike that balance. There's 30 people in the class, and there's some people that it's their second class, and some people who've been there for years, and you're trying to come up with ways to keep everybody occupied, that the advanced members are not bored to tears and the early members are not completely left behind, right? Like finding that middle road, it's a balancing act. It's tough and it's always changing, right?
Yeah, teaching in general
Right.
is trying to understand
Exactly.
who's at the lowest and who's at the highest, and how do I communicate to both at the same time. Yeah,
be
very
tough.
difficult. Whereas yesterday on my set visit, it was the complete opposite, where I arrived and there had been no preparatory conversation with what my level of understanding was on set. They knew that I was coming for a set visit, and that I was a writer on an upcoming show, which was a parallel show to the production company. So this is how they do it, but this isn't the show you're working on. And sometimes that can mean everyone's annoyed that you're there.
Well, where were they in their production schedule, right? Like, do they actually have a bit of time to
No, this was active set. Everyone's rolling. And what was really wonderful about it was, so here's again, to avoid the jargon for the dear listener, if you come on to a set and things are happening, ask no questions. The moment everyone stops moving and starts talking to the person next to them, that's when it's safe to ask a question in general, right? And so between setups, right? So a setup is the director has come and said, we're doing scene 32. It's going to be in this operating room, and we're going to need the following things: set up for the shot. Here's where the camera's going to go. Here's where the actors are going to go. Then they leave, and all the crews come in for electrical and lighting and set deck, all comes in to make that happen. That's a setup. So between setups, there is a little space where usually the director has some time to get his thoughts together. Not usually a good time to interrupt them either, but on set, while I was there for the set visit, what I found was this huge generosity that between setups, everyone was available to answer any question I wanted at any level I wanted, and I really leaned into the fact that they didn't know what my experience was, to shine a little flashlight into areas where I probably should have known that already, and I've always assumed this is how things are done. But I'm going to use this as my opportunity to ask it as a direct question to the person who does the actual job, how it's done. And really felt that my set experience, which I've been on set plenty of times, but there's a certain level of assumption that you feel like you know how things are done and you assume what is happening. I decided after that first introduction to that first between setup where everyone was just so open, I was like, I'm going to stay here all day and I'm going to ask all the dumb questions I would probably Google when I got back so I wouldn't feel dumb.
And like people who are like passionate about what they do are usually like eager to gush about it.
Exactly.
So you were just giving them the green light to gush about their job.
It's exactly how it felt. Is everyone just got excited about this thing that they're doing well.
Because like at a convention, don't you kind of get excited when somebody starts asking like technical questions? Not just where do your ideas come from or how long does this take, but like, so when you're preparing your print files, like what kind of considerations are you taking with your borders? Like, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and for me, that deep dive is usually when someone recognizes that I've applied a paper texture to a finished illustration. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people will assume that I've done that illustration on some old paper and then scanned that old paper, and they find that to be a kind of Byzantine weird way to do it.
It's a silly question. Maybe he'd be offended if I asked about it. It's a silly question. I don't know.
Yeah, and sometimes I do scan old paper, and sometimes I do stuff on old paper. But lately, mostly what I do is I go to old bookstores and make copies of the end papers of old books so that I have an archive of my own textures that then I can apply to a clean illustration and give it that old feeling, right? When someone says, oh, where do you gather your textures? This isn't in any of the libraries. And they mean the texture libraries that are available on Photoshop or any of these other places. I'll talk all day long about like, you know, how I do the lighting trick on my phone, how sometimes I have to like buy an old book so I can get it scanned, how I'll go sometimes to a print shop, not like just a regular commercial printer like for an office or whatever, and say, hey, could you make me a PDF of these 5 book front faces? And they're like, well, these are blank. Yeah, I just want the paper texture, high resolution as a PDF. Could you do that for, you know, like, I'll talk about that all day long as you guys can see the gleam in my eye. And I can also see you being like, really? Oh my God, right? So it's that granular stuff that people really, if they're not being interrupted, and in fact they're being asked on the back of a compliment, you know, like, oh, that looks really great. How did you do that?
Yeah.
And you do that while they're between setups, right? Oh, it was so wonderful. And that's why I guess part of this jargon thing was on my mind, is I was demystifying a lot of the things that are behind this wall of how industry has standardized certain parts. It was also a non-union shoot that operated like a union shoot. Like, it was clear that enough of the people in the business there know
See
that
right there. Explain union and non-union.
Yeah, so a union shoot has a lot of administration has gone into organizing everything to be done a certain way, primarily for
Above
safety.
board. It's got a seal of approval.
A seal of approval, usually based around safety, working conditions, the hours that you work, how much seniority, who is allowed to ask what. On a real tight union shoot, like, you do not speak out of turn. If you are a grip, you don't speak to the art department head. Like,
and there's a guy with a clipboard and glasses making sure everything is...
And a first AD might come in and give you a very stern talking to for speaking outside of the chain of command. right? So this is the other reason why if you've been on a union shoot, and I've been on a few, you get kind of nervous about not knowing the jargon.
And not knowing who you're allowed to speak to and
Right.
who you're not.
knowing.
Yeah.
So when I came onto this shoot, which was not union but ran like one, meaning that there were departments and there were people who had their little kingdoms and they had their own jargon, it was also safe to ask tales out of the chain of command. And it was very lax. Like, it was a smaller crew, a smaller production. There was 4 principal actors. There was maybe a crew of 15 in total, including the director. So it was, it was a tight enough group where...
Smaller family.
Yeah, a small family. You can ask questions at the dinner table.
There's a new virus in the database.
What's happening?
It's replicating, eating up memory. What do I do?
Type cookie, you idiot.
This is all to say that on this show, we try pretty hard for the dear listener. If someone uses a term that feels to me like jargon, I usually interrupt and say, just so you know, this is what that means. And in recent episodes, I realize I haven't been doing that very often. We've been kind of taking for granted, I think, the essential premise of the show.
Is it because you're getting used to the jargon?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Right? Like my own...
It's not jargon to you anymore because you
not-
understand it.
Yeah, that's right. And so there's a danger of that distance between a person who feels like they're coming in and a person who seems to have experience. With all the gray in our beards now, we're the old guys at the table, and it's, we used to be the young guns, Justin, but now we're just rickety old fighters while you fight. I sit in the back, smoking a pipe in a jacket. Right?
Yeah, you spend all your time like surrounded by people in the same industry, and you just kind of take for granted that everybody knows all the same stuff that you do, and you just stop explaining it.
So how do we make it easier for people who want to be in the job not to be put off by the notion that, oh, there's this wall. I'll never be able to do that because I don't understand. Discuss. How do you open doors rather than close them when the pressure's on?
Usually, like, the first thing, like, we'll tell people, like, if somebody wants to get into an illustration career, usually my first thing is take some graphic design.
Mm-hmm.
Red River's graphic design course or some other graphic design course. And the reason for that is illustration is a pretty tough go when you're starting out, right? It takes a while to get going in illustration. From what I've seen in my experience, like, there's outliers, of course, but to get into illustration, knowing Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, those programs that graphic designers have to use all the time, you'll get that. You'll learn about printing stuff. You'll learn about, charging clients and invoicing and stuff like this. So there's just so much overlap with graphic design and illustration, and with the jargon as well. Yeah. So that's always you wanna get into comics, you wanna get into drawing. Here's the course. This will kind of get you.
And they may have the ability to introduce the new creative suites. Like a lot of people are switching to Affinity and other. There's a big migration away from.
I didn't know that.
Right, away from Photoshop and the Creative Suite.
Interesting.
Because of its, essentially
monopoly, basically.
Monopoly and overly capitalistic subscription service model. Where, like, if you are not willing to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars a year, you don't get to play at the sandbox. Well, Affinity and other, Clip Studio, these are one-time use, $8 or $9, right?
And
it does everything.
Procreate. Procreate's the other
Procreate
one,
is
right?
One-time pay.
Yeah.
So many people in comics have switched to Procreate.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know if that's happened for video or audio, because they still, like, the Premiere Pro is kind of the main one. That's the one we teach anyway, and
Such
Audition.
heavy-duty programs.
I mean, the Creative Suite really is a lot there, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, there are other products that exist that could do the same job. So I mean, it's interesting to see if that happens going that way as well.
Here's a good example for screenwriting. Everyone will say Final Draft is, and if you Google, like, what software should I use, Final Draft has bought every layer of the ad thing. You got to go 5 pages deep to find the other ones. But you're using
I'm using Fade In, which was recommended by Jonathan Ball.
Yeah. So friend of the podcast, Jonathan Ball.
He's not in the room. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, he's not in the room.
Like, a lot of these, though, like, so for example, I'm an artist who works primarily in vector, which is just a type of art. It's a medium.
That's jargon. I actually don't know what that means.
Yeah. So
let me try to explain it.
Okay.
because I don't use vector.
You don't.
But I've only sat near people using vector
So
for
see,
years.
It's washed over you.
So as I understand the benefits of vector is it's a type of illustration inside the program different than raster illustrations, which is what I use in Photoshop, which can be scaled to any size without loss of resolution. Vector can.
Resolution, what's that?
With the ability for it to be reproduced and the image to be clear to the eye and not fuzzy, muddled, or pixelated.
Here's how I explain it usually is
So I think you're wrong.
yeah.
Well,
no.
That's
That's
close.
that's good, but
That's
I
a
think
layman's
I'm
version.
still trying to like dumb it not dumb it down. Oh, I didn't mean that. You know,
And
simplify it still.
that's why people get hurt by jargon.
Yeah.
So raster, I always think of a grid. When you start an image in raster in Photoshop, you're saying this image is 100 pixels by 100 pixels. So that means there's 100 little boxes.
Squares.
Yeah, 100 little squares by 100
What's a
little squares.
pixel, Justin?
Right. And so when you draw, you're filling in these boxes with little blocks of color, and then when you zoom out, you can see the image made up of all these little boxes.
And maybe the dear listener does not know this, that all the images that they are seeing on their screens are made up of tiny little squares.
Tiny little
I
squares.
feel like that's pretty common knowledge. I
And that
feel like
you're-
it's more common knowledge than it used to be, especially with the kids these
You want
days.
to talk about the 3 circles when it gets printed out now?
Oh, we could,
Yeah,
but
no. Continue with what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
So what vector does it doesn't have this 100 pixels by 100 pixels grid. It's math based. It's going from one point to another, and it calculates that line. And when you can infinitely zoom in or zoom out, and rather than like figuring out the pixels, it just recalculates what that line
it's an extrapolation between points, and then it adds the line each time. It's almost like if you're thinking in raster, it's almost re-rendering it every time you
Every
zoom in
time.
and zoom
So
out.
it's like a
Yeah.
graph kind of
It's
thing.
math
It's like
based.
you know how you can draw a line on a graph based on numbers. You're talking about
Correct.
that. So it's
Yeah.
like it's that without the graph. It is just
right.
drawing the line.
That's
Yeah.
right.
But for you, it's just like you're drawing like a regular
Exactly.
tool,
Yes.
like a regular. You're
Yeah.
using it just on with a thing. Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
that was.
And Vector's primary application when it was first invented was to scale up graphic design for billboards and jets and anything big you
Yeah,
need to
yeah,
put
yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
on, right?
Yeah, yeah, huh?
And the
Interesting.
technology so this is where I'm bringing it back around. The drawing program that I used has had they're always every year Adobe and whoever else is coming out with like new versions of vector drawing software, but it is still at its foundation the same thing from like 2007 that I learned when it was freehand 10 or 9 or whatever it was. Like the basic tools that I'm using have not changed a bit.
The foundation is the
The
same.
foundation is exactly the same. They
Yeah.
keep adding bells and whistles, and now you can do this, and now look at all these is like cool new things. But at its core, I'm still using the same 4 tools that I've been using for the last 15 years.
Can I rant for a second? Wait, what would this be called? Is this a rant?
A
This
rant is a report.
I'm going to make a report
Okay.
right now that has a certain tone, which I believe is
See, you're
like
not allowed
a
to
rant.
do that. That's why I don't like the term rant, because you're not actually allowed to do that in journalism.
You're not allowed to have a tone.
Well, not
It's
really.
supposed to be objective.
You're supposed to be
Yes.
objective, right?
Yeah.
But so the rant isn't really a rant implies that you're angry about
It's
something.
more
Yeah,
a
so-
soapbox.
So I am, yes, if you hear the creaking, it's my soapbox.
Come on, you son of a bitch. Is that all you got, huh? Come on, let's see what else you can do. You talking to me? Huh? Are you nuts? Come at me.
I recently updated. No, that was Justin, ladies and gentlemen. If you heard that thump, he was making fun of me again.
I mean,
Hurtful. My rant is as follows. I recently updated my entire creative suite at Adobe. This podcast is not sponsored by Adobe. In fact, this rant is going to take a shot at them. I am laying out, I often do my illustration in Photoshop and then lay out and connect that Photoshop.
just side really quick. Are you using Photoshop fairly similar to the way you've always been using it?
Yes,
Yeah.
the foundations
same
have not
thing,
changed. And this
lots
is what
of bells and whistles.
brought
Yeah.
this up to me. So I've been using it functionally the same thing as an infinite collage space where I can draw elements and then reuse them and stack them and fit them together, take physical collage elements, bring them in as layers, stack them, see through it. Like, dear listener, think of it, I think of Photoshop as a glass table, 100 sheets of glass deep. And I can put anything I want on those layers, but they're all, you can see them from the top, like old school Disney animation.
Yeah.
Which is fine, great. Other people use it lots of different ways, more power to you. But every single time since the update that I've tried to create a new illustration and include it in InDesign, where InDesign is a book layout process. So you can link the illustration you did, which is stored here on your computer, and see how it will appear in the layout of the book in this other program, which is InDesign. Every time I include one of my own illustrations, it says, did you know you don't need to make illustrations anymore? Would you like to try text to prompt?
Oh, it's doing the prompts
Would you
for
like
new features and
right?
It's trying to get you to use its AI.
Yeah, don't bother generating artwork ever again is essentially the tone. And now when I create a new layer in Photoshop and I start making an image,
Do you want to try our generative
yeah,
AI?
are you trying to make a hat? Right?
It's like the worst version of Clippy.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's like Clippy is back from the dead, pushy, angry, and like obsessed with convincing me that my skill set is obsolete and why don't you just do this?
Yeah, that's just, they're pushing their
And I
next
had
product.
to dig into the settings and just disable
You're gonna have
all
to show
that.
me where to turn that off because I also am still like every time I use a tool, they're trying to prompt me with like showing me how to use it, and I don't know how to turn that off.
Now here's the funny thing. This relates to our jargon conversation. If you're new into those programs and you're just trying to learn and you don't know how to generate all that content yourself, it would be amazingly useful for it to say, here's an image, now play with it. I can see its application. I'm not against the inclusion of a new tool. I am against the idea that it seems to be presented in a adversarial way to where images come from.
And usually too, like I'm thinking back to when I first got into the Adobe Suite. We got like a Photoshop book and an Illustrator book, like textbooks of like how to use the programs, and they read like a driver's manual. Like it was very dry and hard to learn. So I would go to other places to learn how to do it. So same thing. Like even if like the information they're trying to show me, like could be useful, I can't learn it through the jargon that they use. I'd rather go to a YouTube video of some comic book illustrator, like check out this cool thing I'm doing in Photoshop and here's how I do it. Like I don't know why, but like one will click and the other like I can't. It's like torture.
Well, this is why I think that's true. I think because when we're trying to accomplish something, we have a single use in mind and a destination in mind. And the people who are designing the interfaces on these massive programs that can do almost anything are trying to be more generalized. So they're giving you general information about how the program runs, and you're looking for specific information about how the program
building
runs.
sandcastles with like steamrollers and like cat tractors. Like Photoshop can do a million amazing things, and we need like 1 to 2% of it to do what we need to do.
I want to adjust this yellow color layer by 4% towards green. That's all I want to do, right? So going through a whole thing about how you can do layer masking. I don't need to know about any of that. I just want to see, like you say, a video of a person who's like, oh, here's how I play with my color wheels on the...
I think the way we learn things has fundamentally changed in the last 10 years. And you guys are talking about tutorial videos and that kind of thing. How did you originally learn Photoshop? You went to school for it, right?
And the teacher would give us like a really rough, like a very general, like, here's how this works, and then just throw something at us, right? Like,
that's the standard operating procedure right, for college. But like for you, Gregory, how did you
I had
learn?
to go backwards. So what happened was I was drawing comics by hand, and I wanted to have them printed. And so I would go after hours to a print shop. My buddy Ryan Bartel worked there and had a good relationship with the person who owned it, let us in after hours, and he says, okay, you got to get these illustrations. We need to get them scanned. We need to get them cleaned up. We need to get them laid out, and we need to get them into the printer. And in order to get it to the point where I didn't need another person for every one of those steps, I went in there and learned what programs they were using. Oh, and at that time, I think they were using Quark, but like, right?
Well, I mean, at the time, that's what you had, right? That's kind of the point.
But essentially, as the tools developed, I realized that what everyone has specialized in, They had broad specializations. And I just needed to know how to link this illustration I made to this export program so that it would go into the printer. And I got really specialized by doing each step the hard way. Like I learned by doing.
Yeah.
And then when I got the programs, I had, again, Ryan, I used to call him the black belt in InDesign. I would call my black belt, I'm trying to lay it all out. I've completely messed it up. The resolution is too high, it keeps crashing. I'd call my black belt and he'd be like, oh, you know, you took on you're fighting in the ring right now. You don't have those skills. What you need to do is rebuild your file this way. This is the way it keeps it streamlined. And I just failed over and over and over and tried it and wanted to do it and needed to do it and had to do it, so learned how to do it.
So the situation, and that's the way a lot of people do it, self-taught, figuring it out on their own, and that's kind of the nature of a tutorial video. That's what it's encouraging you to do. But the situation you're describing, where it's like an AI prompt saying where you're going to start to draw a hat and it's saying, here, I can draw a hat for you, and then a person just learning that program is just going to click on that. Of course, they're going to try out all the new features of this new program they're learning, and they're never really going to learn how to do it themselves. They're never going to learn how to draw that hat. They're just going to let the computer do it for them for the whole time.
And this is my rant. This is connected to my rant. If you're on a subscription-based model, which Photoshop is now, that's what you want.
Yeah.
That's what you want. You want people with no skills who have to pay every month for you to do it for them. That's what you want. And that's what I find like really distasteful about this move towards like an AI tool in and of itself, I have no problem with. An AI tool that is built into a subscription-based model that seems to suggest there's no need to develop skills of your own, that I find extremely distasteful.
So are we just the old men yelling at clouds?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like when computer graphics became a thing, were not all the traditional people saying like, well, now they don't have to do any of the work. The computer's going to do it all for them. And like, look at these lazy guys. They're never going to have to learn how to do this painting in real life.
Dear listener, please see our previous episodes with Laverne Kazurski about how coloring used to be done.
Yeah.
Right? And how we were completely flabbergasted with the level of physical effort that was required to add red into an illustration for print.
For graphic design, you cut stuff, you physically cut out letters and headlines and stuff and physically constructed a page and then photocopied that, and that was how you design things. You physically put it together by hand with knives.
Yeah.
And then
we learned in that episode of a printing press that used to, I found it very fascinating. I looked up a little about it after. It would create its own letters by pouring molten molds
every time
of the letter, and then it would cool, and then you could print. Right? This technology that we are taking for granted moves at an incredible rate.
Right.
And you should not, of course, be afraid of new tools. But a tool and a platform are not the same.
Yeah. And it's the method by which they're rolling out this tool.
Yeah.
It's like the subscription, pay me a monthly fee.
Yeah.
I feel like subscription services in general are going to fade away.
I think so.
I think people are getting sick of it.
Yeah.
They're realizing they're just paying into something and not really using them.
And they get nothing for it.
Right.
And as soon as they stop paying, they don't get to keep it.
Yeah. So, and this is kind of, it relates to Netflix and all the video streaming services. We're starting to see more bundles in these platforms. So this is more in the States than it is here, but you can get like Netflix, Hulu, and Disney Plus or something like that all together instead of, but they lock you into a contract with
almost like channels.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it just like cable TV? But it's they're locking now because they don't like people churning. They don't like people, oh, I'm just going to cancel my Disney Plus this month because there's nothing on there that I want to see.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
I'll wait until the new Star Wars series comes out and then I'll resubscribe it. That's called churn, right? People will churn through their...
There's some jargon.
There's a jargon,
There's jargon.
They'll churn through their subscription services, and all kinds of people are doing this because it's very common, right?
That's
You
my
can just
favorite
kinda
thing
turn
to
them
do
on.
is like get like Crave or Paramount Plus for a month and immediately cancel it. So at the end of the month, it just goes away.
You pay for 1 month at a time, and then you cancel, so you're
Yeah.
not ongoing. They don't want you to do that. They want you to just forget about it and just keep paying into it. Anyway.
So, but isn't the forgetting the churn? They want it to churn.
No,
because
they
you
want you.
forgot.
They want you to stop churning. They want you to be like just pay and pay and pay and not flipping things around.
Right.
Because churning is like going from like Netflix. I'm going to cancel my Netflix and then start up Disney Plus,
Right.
and then go back to the next thing. My kids keep asking me for Crunchyroll and shit like that. I'm just like, guys, I'm just not. You're the only one who wants this. One kid asks me for Crunchyroll, and I'm like, nope.
A rabbit is in the administration system.
Send a flu shot.
Rabbit, flu shot, someone talk to me.
A rabbit replicates till it overloads a file, then it spreads like cancer.
Cancer?
In the danger of jargon in any industry, there can be, like, for example, if you've listened to our of Super Pulp Science for a while, you've heard us mention Photoshop and the InDesign and the Adobe Creative Suite a bunch, and you may assume, oh, this is the only thing I can use. This is what I should do. And then you're as frustrated as we are about the platform.
Right.
But then you are sort of pushing it down deep inside, as they say, just so that you can pay or play, right? Pay to play. I don't really agree with that. Like illustration, for example, and writing, these are the cheapest possible creative expressions you can engage in. Piece of paper and a pencil, you can write a goddamn novel, you can draw a comic, you don't need anything but office paper and a pencil, period. You can have an exceptional creative output.
I just realized I have another subscription service. I've subscribed to a paper printing subscription service through my home printer. And I hit
whoa.
This is
your
gonna blow
home
you away.
printer has a subscription.
Yeah, I'm gonna cancel though. Explain to you what was happening, but this is a funny story. It just made me think of this. I got a new printer or whatever. I needed to print some stuff. This is probably during the pandemic, and at first I just got the regular cartridges, but of course we know they cost a fortune, and they always get you. The printer's cheap, the cartridges cost a lot. So I saw this thing advertised where it's like this instant ink. It's HP Instant Ink. So basically the idea
Not a
is
sponsor of the podcast.
Yeah, no. The idea is though that it automatically, because your printer is a connected device and it's online and it can monitor the ink levels, so that as soon as it runs out, it automatically sends you a cartridge and you pay a low monthly subscription fee for this.
Wait,
and
so they have spyware in your house?
Pretty much, yeah.
Lets you know when the printer's
printer's running low on ink. And so when it gets to a certain amount, it automatically ships you a cartridge, and then you just put it in there and that's it. And then you just keep going and pay a monthly fee. And it's $7 a month.
$7 a month?
I thought it was, I did the math and I thought, well, I thought, will I print that much? And I thought, like, it gives you guidelines. And I thought it was just guidelines of, like, how much you would get. And it says 50 pages a month, 100 pages a month, 150 pages a month. But no, it shuts you down. Doesn't matter how much ink is left in the cartridge. It will not let you print anymore. I ran into the wall this month.
Like,
I was
you
trying
printed
to print,
150 pages and
it stopped. I had the cheapest. I had the 50 pages a month, and I thought I probably won't go over that, but even if I do, whatever. And there's carryover pages, like minutes in phone. So if you have extra ones, you can carry them over. And then I had to print a big document, and I'm like, it stopped. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I couldn't figure out what was going on with my printer.
You have to
it's this
upgrade
little
your
flashing
subscription.
thing, and I had to upgrade my subscription so it finished the printing job. That is the status of the.
That's a dystopian nightmare. I cannot believe that's real. You made that up, right?
No, that's exactly what happened to me. Yeah. So I'm gonna keep it. Obviously, I had to upgrade it, and it was only like $2 to upgrade it for the month. So this month I'm paying a higher rate, and I'm canceling the whole fucking thing because that's just terrifying to me.
This is an example of humans at their worst.
Yeah.
Right? Like a simple thing they've figured out how to. No, not you. You've been taken advantage of by a system that couldn't be more delighted to hear that you ran out.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And I hate that.
Yeah.
You know? I just hate that so much.
What is the dollar amount per year on unused subscribins in North America?
Oh, well, there's
right?
that.
Like,
That's the other part of the scam is just people who forget to
because that's me.
Cancel.
I definitely forget.
I had to cancel. I got a free I won a free 6-month subscription to Sirius XM. I listened to it for about a day and then turned it off because there's nothing there that I can't get anywhere else. And
months
then
later, you realized.
Well, no, I actually went in and canceled it. But if I hadn't, it would just charge me like in the middle of July for this thing, right? Like. And that's what they do.
I'm sure it's state by state. I don't know what it's like in America, but I know in Canada, remember the big kerfuffle about how every chain that was doing gift cards, they were celebrating how few gift cards got redeemed. And then a government watchdog agency was like, wait, that's stealing. Like, you're counting on the fact that people will not use them as part of your business model to push them. This is
every
actually
birthday, every Christmas,
fraud.
Every work event, people would get gift cards and then forget
lost.
about them in a drawer somewhere, and then they expire.
That's right, and the expiration date became what they. And
yeah,
and it all started because they were trying. A lot of different companies, platforms, really, were trying to shorten the expiration date. Oh, can we shorten it to 3 months? What's the shortest amount we can put on a gift card's expiration date? and then it was tantamount to stealing, and so there was, nationwide, it became a national thing, and now gift cards in Canada cannot expire.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Right. Yeah. But I'm hoping that some kind of pushback.
That is what seems to happen every time. Like the people will not stand for it. They'll push back. They don't like it.
Way too far in that direction, and it has to.
Yeah,
correct.
there's some corrections. So that I'm sure that will happen.
Yeah, the amount of just accounts in general you're asked to make these days. Like 7-Eleven wants you to set up an account with them and collect points on their app. Every single business, every single industry wants you to have an account, your email, your information. It's the amount of passwords and usernames every individual has now is just something's got to change.
The best part about that, and as the author of Automatic Age, I'm qualified to whisper this cautionary tale, is all the AI platforms are now saying, don't worry, now you can just have one AI that keeps track of all that stuff for you forever. Pay a subscription model. I'm being serious.
Set up an account.
Yeah, and this thing will manage all of those things. Now, there is an amazing movie, and it's an anime movie. I've forgotten the director, but the movie is called Summer Wars.
Yes.
Fantastic film.
Gorgeous
movie.
Check it out.
Watch it with your kids. It's a wonderful cautionary tale about the introduction of too much platform in human activity. And it's about a AI that runs amok inside this platform Oz that all of Japan is using at the time to manage everything from their phones to the banking to their hospital to their heart monitors. Everything is run through Oz, and then when it breaks down, of course, people have to work together again, right? And in a nation like Japan, this is obviously part of that cultural identity is being addressed in this film.
But the film, it goes from this virtual world that's all high tech and crazy and actiony, and then the juxtaposition of the main characters are in a farmhouse out in the boonies.
Yeah, they're on an old samurai estate, that's in the family still.
No, there's no Wi-Fi. Is that the problem?
Well, there is Wi-Fi, but it's a wonderful film. So if you want to,
I'll check it out for sure. That sounds awesome. Is it on Crunchyroll?
I'm sure it is.
I might have to churn over to some Crunchyroll for that one.
I'll tell you how old I am. I have it on DVD.
Ooh,
that's
I can
how
borrow
I
it
watch
then.
it. Yes, I can bring it for you. Yep. So, jargon and gatekeeping sometimes go hand in hand. I definitely dislike it. Platforms, and we can think about film, television, graphic novel production, novels. These are platforms, essentially, right? And in order to, for that platform to produce its content and to get its audience, it has to run a certain way. And so you can feel like, oh, I'm too far removed from what I need to know in order to participate. No. Stop the whole machine. Throw your clog in the machine, your sabot, your little wooden shoe, and stop the whole thing by simply asking, could you clarify that? I will also rant a bit. I come from the world of education. There is no organizational body that I have ever encountered that uses more acronyms for less effect.
It's true. It's very true.
More acronyms. No group uses more acronyms for less effect than the education system.
Yeah.
Every year.
Corporate consultants, I think.
No.
Well, it's born from education. It all comes from education.
They do not even hold a candle. Those tech or those finance bros talking about their ROIs, they couldn't manage 1 hour at a high school staff meeting. There is so much jargon, and all of it is a means of which to kind of feel like you're elevating your position. I'm in the know and you're not. I'm in the know and you're not. And the smaller the group that's functioning, and the less power they have. This is my rant. This is not based on facts, just my own experiences. The smaller the group and the less power anyone actually has inside that group, the more likely you are to see them using jargon to separate themselves from that group, right? See the entire history of religion for this, if you'd like more on this matter. So, dear listeners, this has been Super Pulp Science. Beware of the jargon, but
hit that subscribe button.
For a low monthly fee, you can have all the super pulp science you want.
But please do join the fight and make comics.